Reading 2. We're taking you now, though, full commentary of the Brazilian Grand Prix with our team, Jolyon Palmer, Jenny Gow and commentator Jack Nicholls.
Thank you very much, Steve. The cars are making their way around on the formation lap now, and it will be Valtteri Bottas starting on pole position for the Brazilian Grand Prix. The Interlagos circuit, about 35 minutes from downtown Sao Paulo, has hosted many Grand Prix over the years. It's decided many titles over the years. It can't do it officially today, but it can go a long way in seeing which way this 2021 Formula One World Championship fight will go. Bottas is on pole, Verstappen is alongside him on the front row in the Red Bull, third is Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, fourth is Sergio Perez in the other Red Bull, Lando Norris is fifth for McLaren, Charles Leclerc sixth for Ferrari, Gasly, Ocon, Vettel and Lewis Hamilton complete the top 10. Hamilton starting 10th, having been qualified on pole on Friday, was disqualified, started at the back of the grid for the sprint yesterday, got all the way back up to 5th, but then has a 5-place grid drop because of an engine change, so is back down to 10th. Ricciardo, Alonso, Giovinazzi, Stroll, Tsunoda, Latifi, Russell, Schumacher and Mazepin, the other 19 drivers. Kimi Raikkonen is starting from the pit lane. Verstappen leads the championship by 19 points. Hamilton's progress from 10th today, Jolyon Palmer, is going to be the fascinating part.
Could be season-defining for Lewis Hamilton. 10th on the grid, finished 5th in the sprint yesterday, but takes that 5-place grid penalty. But he was roaring through the field in 30 minutes yesterday. Hour and a half, it's a full Grand Prix leg, 71 laps. Can he get close to Max Verstappen? That's going to be the fight at the front. Bottas on pole from Verstappen. He got that by taking the lead at the start yesterday. This time, all on the medium tyres. Verstappen is going to be looking to take it back at the start. It's going to be crucial.
21 points the gap at the top of the championship. My apologies, after Max Verstappen picked up 2 points yesterday during the sprint. Jenny Gow, the cars now lining up on the grid.
Yes, everyone on the medium tyre, apart from Tsunoda and AlphaTauri, who starts on the soft, and track temperatures 55 degrees. That's almost double what they were yesterday.
Yeah, beautiful sunny day in Brazil. We've got the T20 cricket final on 5 Live Sports Extra, but here on 5 Live for the next hour and a half or so, we'll be bringing you 71 laps of racing from Brazil. After this, there's only 3 races to go in the 2021 Formula One World Championship season. So Bottas is on pole for Mercedes. The Red Bull of Verstappen is third. The Ferrari of Sainz is third. So the Verstappen of Red Bull is second. The Ferrari of Sainz is third. The Red Bull of Perez is fourth. And Hamilton is fifth on the grid. Here come the lights. Brazilian Grand Prix about to get underway. Bottas from pole position gets a reasonable getaway, and I think Verstappen's going to get him though. Down into turn 1, Verstappen's on the inside, Norris is off with a puncture, and Verstappen and Bottas are side by side. Verstappen's done it. Verstappen gets back into the lead, and Perez is going to have a really good chance of getting past Valtteri Bottas here as well. They're going to go wheel to wheel down towards the left-hander at Descida do Lago, turn 4. Perez to the outside. Bottas holds the position on the inside, but then slides wide, and Perez is through. Bottas has not done the job for his team. He goes from first to third. It's a Red Bull 1-2. Verstappen in front. Second is Perez. Hamilton is trying to go around the outside of Pierre Gasly coming up into Ferradura, and he pulls it off. So Hamilton is now up into 7th position. Pretty decent start from him, Jolyon.
Yeah, decent start from Hamilton. Better start for Verstappen into the lead of the race, and even better news for him, he's got his teammate behind. Valtteri Bottas tried to fight back at turn 1, and it ended up compromising his exit, side by side with Perez into 4, and it ran wide. Perez through into second, so Red Bull 1-2, Mercedes 3-7 from pole position, but at least for Hamilton, he's gained a few places, and Lando Norris is at the back of the field. He had contact into turn 1.
Might just be a puncture. I'll try and get back. Let's try and get back.
Here comes Hamilton now on Sebastian Vettel. End of lap 1. Verstappen leads. Perez is second, but Hamilton is to the outside of Vettel and is through. 6th place now for Lewis Hamilton on lap 2 of 71, and he's right behind Carlos Sainz. Ocon finally gets ahead of Daniel Ricciardo for 9th place. They were fighting into the final corner at Junção, and now he's made it stick. Verstappen leads, Perez second, Bottas third, Leclerc is fourth, Hamilton almost getting into 5th coming into Descida do Lago.
So Sainz is the other loser really from the start, 3rd down to 5th. His teammate Charles Leclerc's got ahead of him, having started in 6th position. So Sainz with a poor getaway, and he's now the 2nd of the 2 Ferraris, because we've got Lewis Hamilton already crawling on the back of him. That move that Hamilton put on Gasly lap 1 was sensational. Around the outside of Ferradura, the quick right-hander, as Norris finally comes back into the pit lane, but he's half a lap down. He's nearly going to be lapped by Max Verstappen as he re-emerges onto the track. So that Hamilton move on Gasly was brilliant. Then he passed Vettel like he wasn't even there. And now this is the sound of him coming into Junsao, the final corner, right in behind Carlos Sainz. And this could be another move for 5th place.
Little bit of a wiggle on the exit of Junsao. No DRS at the moment. The drag reduction system where the rear wing pops open and gives you more straight line speed, but I don't think Hamilton's going to need it. He's in the slipstream of the Spaniard. He goes to the inside coming down into turn 1. Sainz doesn't fight him particularly hard, and Hamilton now is up into 5th place. So there's only one car between he and his teammate Bottas. Hamilton started 10th, Bottas started 1st. Now Bottas is 3rd and Hamilton is 5th after 2 laps.
Hamilton just needs to clear Leclerc, and he's basically 3rd place because Bottas will jump out the way, you'd have thought. And then there's Hamilton chasing down the 2 Red Bulls. I mean, the penalty, back of the grid for the sprint, plus 5 places on the grid for this one. And it's absolutely coming to nothing, really. He's already going to be right with the Red Bulls. This is a replay of Norris.
He basically got punished for his bad start. He went around the outside, and then just as he came over to the left, tagged the front wing of Carlos Sainz.
He had a great start. He was coming around Sainz, who had a poor start. Norris went halfway off the track as he was trying to get around Sainz. Sainz tried to cover him, and well, I think Lando squeezed across.
Yeah, I could do nothing to avoid Lando there. I couldn't please.
It was wheel to wheel rather than the wing, so Sainz should be able to get away with that. Bottas at turn 1, thoughts?
Well, let's get another. We're getting another replay of it now. So Verstappen, similar to yesterday, didn't get initially the jump, but then in the drive phase managed to get up the inside. Bottas looked like he'd lost the place, but fought it, and it was, I mean, never really was going to make it work, and he compromised his exit. We sometimes have a go at Bottas for not going for it, but that was almost going for it with a 0% chance of success. He was quite a way down on Verstappen, and was going for a gap that was never going to open on the outside, so it was always going to fail, that one, and it ended up compromising. He shouldn't have lost the place to Perez, though. He had Perez under control down to turn 4, but outbraked himself and ran wide, so that allowed Perez through. Really, for Bottas, the damage was done with Verstappen getting better traction on the inside and getting clean up there.
And Hamilton's up to 4. Hamilton gets ahead of Charles Leclerc then, is up to 4th position in the Mercedes. So the order is Verstappen in the lead, Perez 2nd, Bottas 3rd, Hamilton in 4th spot, and he's just 2 seconds behind his teammate Bottas. He sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix on that last lap as well, a couple of tenths quicker than Max Verstappen managed. We've had contact further back. Yuki Tsunoda looked to be putting a kind of cleanish move, to be honest, on Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin, and they've come together. Difficult one, that. Here's Tsunoda's radio.
He was not looking at all.
Tsunoda says he wasn't looking at all.
Tsunoda with a
and Bottas moves out the way. Bottas moves out the way, and Hamilton is straight through into 3rd place then. So Lewis Hamilton up into 3rd position. Bottas pulls out of the way. Verstappen leads. Perez is 2nd. Hamilton is 3rd. Now he is 3 seconds back from Perez. He's only 5 seconds off the race lead on lap 5 of 71. Let's go to the cricket, get an update on the T20 final. Ellen Oldroyd.
Australia cruising this now. They need 24 more of 24 balls, 149 for 2. Maxwell on 21 off 11, but a terrific innings of 61 off 40 from Mitch Marsh as the ball heads away for another couple of runs. They're getting closer, Australia, to their first ever T20 World Cup final win. 151 for 2. The target is 173.
Gareth Lewis is at the Principality Stadium.
And Lewis Rees-Zammit has sealed it for Wales. He'd have given a Formula 1 car a run for its money, herring down the touchline after his own kick. The dive, the touchdown. Wales lead by 31 points to 23 against 14-man Fiji, but they've been pushed hard.
Thank you very much, Gareth, here at the Brazilian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen is leading. Sergio Perez is 2nd. Lewis Hamilton is 3rd. And he's only 4.6 seconds off Max Verstappen in the lead of the Grand Prix now. Sets the fastest lap of the race. Half a second faster than Verstappen. Former F1 driver Jolyon Palmer alongside me, Jack Nicholls, and Jenny Gao.
Yeah, Yuki Tsunoda's just come into the pit lane to change his front wing. It took 11 seconds to do it. They put him on a hard set of tyres as well, which should get him to a decent point in this race. But just worth noting, a lot of debris on track still after that incident between Stroll and Tsunoda just after turn 1. Drivers do need to take care.
How are you seeing the race unfold, Jolyon?
Imagine being Sergio Perez, being in 2nd place, thinking he'd done a great job.
To invert the cars in turn 1.
Invert the cars at turn 1 was the message to Bottas to get out of the way of Hamilton.
Safety car deployed. That will be presumably for the debris.
Hamilton thanking Valtteri, so safety car deployed. So Hamilton, from being 5 seconds off the lead, is now going to join the back. Everyone will slow down behind the safety car, the gaps will close up, and, well, game on for Hamilton. It's unbelievable, the recovery. So many people asking, how is Hamilton so fast? And some are saying it's because he's got the new engine in, and that's why. Is that part of it, or is it just the pace of him and the car this weekend?
It's a little bit of a new power unit. It can give you a little bit of pace, but he had the power unit in Turkey. Okay, he took the sort of pole position, but he couldn't make the use of it in the race to come through very well. He's just dialed in. He's hooked up. He's taken a few hits this weekend, Lewis Hamilton. And he's come back swinging like never before. Already he was going to have the 5-place grid penalty before the weekend because of that engine change. Then he got thrown to the back of the field from the sprint. Don't forget, he out-qualified everyone by nearly half a second here. This is Hamilton driving with a lot of aggression, and he's driving brilliantly at the moment. He can win this race. Imagine being Max Verstappen now, starting from second but taking the lead at the start. With Hamilton, you know he starts 10th. 5 laps into the race, 6 laps into the race, there's a safety car, and you can see Hamilton in your mirrors 3rd place. That's demoralising for Max Verstappen.
At the end of the race yesterday, Fernando Alonso came over the radio and said, where did Hamilton finish, just out of interest? They said 5th, and he just laughed. He just chuckled, which was quite funny. Right, Red Bull 1-2, Mercedes 3-4, Jenny.
Yes, and just looking at that Mercedes, isn't it convenient that they managed to flip the positions just before the safety car came out? They saw the debris. Maybe that helped them make the decision anyway because they thought a safety car was coming. But it does give Hamilton the chance on the restart to try and jump Perez, doesn't it? And see what he can do from that position, currently 3rd.
And if he does get ahead of Perez, well, then Mercedes are well in the fight when it comes to the pit stops. As here's Hamilton's radio.
Tell Valtteri to follow me. Let's get these guys.
Tell Valtteri to follow me. Not quite sure what else he was planning on doing.
Well, he will if he can.
Yeah.
He's not quite been on the same level though as Hamilton this weekend. I mean, there's such pace, but I'm really enjoying seeing Hamilton drive with this amount of aggression through the field. He's clinical. I can't remember him even going for a move that hasn't come off at the moment. There was one yesterday with Yuki Tsunoda, but Raikkonen was sort of half spun across the track and he couldn't pull it off at turn 1. Apart from that, he's clinical. Some of the drivers, to be fair, aren't fighting him that hard because they see that he's Mercedes and he's Lewis Hamilton, and quite frankly, if he's on the back of them already, he'll beat them over 71 laps, so better not to lose too much race time. But I guess now there's a big test, because of all the cars in the field, there are 2 that will despise being beaten by Lewis Hamilton today, and they're the 2 Red Bulls out front, and they will do everything they possibly can to keep Hamilton behind. And it's not just Verstappen, it's Perez as well. Remember that Turkish Grand Prix? Perez was launching in on the inside when it looked like the move was done a couple of times. He's going to help his team as well as he can now. He's got a contract already for next year. The team have backed him. This is a chance for them to repay a little bit for them.
Yes, let's go.
That radio message was from Verstappen at the very start. So we are still behind the safety car here. So let's check in on the men's T20 final, Ellie.
Australia 159 for 2. They need 14 more off 18 balls. Trent Boult just finishing his spell, 18 runs conceded, 2 wickets taken. Really the only effective New Zealand bowler. It's been all too easy for Australia. Mitchell Marsh, often an unsung hero, 69 off 44 deliveries. He's still there. Glenn Maxwell, 22 off 13, and earlier 53 from David Warner. But they're getting closer all the time. Australia, 14 more needed from 17 balls now.
Full commentary of that cricket is on 5 Live Sports Extra. So behind Verstappen, Perez, Hamilton, Bottas, the top 4. It's then Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. The Ferraris in 5th and 6th. Vettel is up to 7th in the Aston Martin. Gasly lost positions at the start by going wide at turn 4 at Desida do Lago. Ocon tried to get past Ricciardo at Junsao, then managed to pull it off at the end of the first lap for 9th place down into turn 1. Alonso is 11th, Lance Stroll is 12th after his collision with Yuki Tsunoda, Giovinazzi's 13th, Mazepin is 14th, 14th. It's 15th for Mick Schumacher, 16th is Nicholas Latifi, 17th is Kimi Raikkonen, who started from the pit lane, and then George Russell and Yuki Tsunoda are 18th and 19th. Russell made a pit stop to go onto the hard tyres. Tsunoda had to come in to change his front wing, and Lando Norris is running in 20th place, so that's worked out okay for Norris, the safety car, but he's still going to have his work cut out to get back up into the top 10 positions. This is the Brazilian Grand Prix on BBC Radio 5 Live, and we are behind the safety car at the moment to clear some debris on track at turn 1 after a collision between Yuki Tsunoda and Lance Stroll. Your thoughts on that crash, Jolien?
Tsunoda with a slightly late look down the inside, but he got himself reasonably there by the apex, and Stroll came across. For me, probably a racing incident overall. Stroll certainly could have given him a bit more space, but it was a bit of a late look from Tsunoda. I don't think the stewards would be too interested in it.
No, they only care about 0.2 millimetres here and there, don't they? Right, safety car coming in this lap, Jenny.
Yeah, George Russell did pit, you're right, went onto the hard tyres, but he did it under safety car conditions, so it actually cost him half the time that it normally would, just 14 seconds instead of 21.5 seconds.
Yeah, I wonder if he can... Well, I doubt he'll be able to go to the end of the Grand Prix now on these hard tyres, but...
45 laps is the most on a hard tyre they reckon you can get out of it, so it would be a push, a really big push. This is 71 laps, they're on lap 9 at the moment.
But maybe he can do an effective one stop from now on if everyone else has to do 2.
He had nothing to lose, he was right near the back anyway.
Yeah.
Russell, Williams not strong today. Mazepin in the Haas is still 14th.
Right, safety car coming in this lap. How close is Perez going to try and stay to Verstappen, who's going to take the restart here, coming through Junsao, waiting until they're on the start-finish straight. I wondered if Perez was going to sort of get an intentionally slow restart, but Verstappen's going to wait till the last minute to go here.
I think this could help Hamilton. It's always easier for the driver in third to react off the race leader than the guy in second. They're basically looking at the same reference. So there's no sort of concertina or the reverse concertina effect when you're just weaving right away to the line.
Verstappen is taking his time before getting the race back underway, weaving from left to right at about 60 miles an hour. He should be doing about 200 at this point, and there he goes for it. Verstappen gets on the throttle, drives down towards turn 1 and manages to keep the lead of the Grand Prix. Hamilton to the outside, big lockup from Charles Leclerc. Leclerc's going to try and get past Bottas here. They go side by side down into the second part of the centre S. Bottas out wide, holds on, and actually Bottas is right behind Hamilton. Hamilton did not get a good run through the first sequence of corners and has dropped back a little from Sergio Perez. Bottas obviously doesn't want to attack Hamilton coming down into Decido de Lago at turn 4, but not a good restart there from Hamilton overall. He's still in third place. Verstappen leads. Perez is second. And Bottas is going to get done here by Leclerc into Ferradura. No! He's still managing to hold off that Ferrari. So the black Mercedes of Bottas holds off the Scarlet Ferrari for 4th position. But yeah, Hamilton didn't have the pace at the restart and a bit scruffy through the first couple of corners.
Perez did a good job. Perez managed to get the jump on Hamilton, or at least match him, which kept him clear of the Mercedes into turn 1. And now he's got pretty much a second to Hamilton. So they're back to a sort of status quo, although Hamilton just 2 seconds back from Verstappen clearly has some, a marginal benefit from the safety car. The difficult position for Bottas. He's just given up the place to Hamilton voluntarily. Obviously, it's a bit silly to go and take it back again. But at the same time, he's got Charles Leclerc breathing down his neck. So it's a really tricky sort of stuck in the middle point for Bottas. And overall, he's done all right to hold on to 4th.
The Stroll-Tsunoda incident is under investigation. Ricciardo has got back ahead of Esteban Ocon for 9th position in the McLaren. Raikkonen is now up into 15th, having passed the Haas of Mick Schumacher down the main straight. But Verstappen leads the Grand Prix, 1.2 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez. Then it's only half a second from Perez to Hamilton in 2nd and 3rd places. Bottas is 4th. Leclerc is 5th, Sainz is 6th, Vettel, Gasly, Ricciardo and Ocon the rest of the top 10. So Ricciardo back up ahead of Esteban Ocon. Norris is also climbing up through the order. He's got him into 16th place, having been last at the restart. It's full time at the Principality Stadium. Gareth.
The score does not tell the story. 38-23 Wales have won. A 6th try from Liam Williams, right at the end, the man of the match. But Fiji played 14 men for 3/4 of the game. Pushed Wales hard, led with 14 minutes to go. They didn't quite have enough, didn't quite have the discipline either. Wales, a first win this autumn for them, 38 points to 23.
Mick Schumacher in the Haas is limping back to the pit lane with damage to his front wing.
The car?
It's like under the car, I think.
And that's his engineer telling him exactly where the rear wing is, under the car instead of attached to the front. So we'll find out where Schumacher has had a little bit of contact. He was going side by side with a Alfa Romeo into turn 1. And then, he's just kind of overcorrected. I think it was Raikkonen that was trying to get past, and just sort of a bit of an unfortunate moment there for Mick Schumacher. It wasn't actually a sort of collision while racing, if you know what I mean.
Well, he was just trying to keep it on the inside, side by side with Raikkonen, who looked like he'd done a nice move. Back, bit of contact, Schumacher losing control of his car, just very slightly, but when you're side by side, he hit Raikkonen, and a little error there from Schumacher. But it has brought the virtual safety car back out again, because there's more debris, bits of Schumacher's front wing on the track. They should clear that very, very quickly. I think it's just the one piece before turn 9 in the middle sector. Everyone's got to be careful not to run over it. They're getting very, very close, and that could be puncture central if you hit it.
Virtual safety car, though, maintains the gaps between the cars, so it's not like the regular safety car where a physical car comes on the track and they all queue up behind it. The virtual safety car, everybody has to go to basically a speed limit, and so they stay the same distance between the cars. Hamilton was just 4/10 behind Sergio Perez as they came across the line at the end of that last lap, so very, very close to the back of the Red Bull, and he'll have DRS soon, and he is right up behind Perez, although they are the virtual safety car is still out, waiting for the virtual safety car to be ending, and Hamilton will be frustrated because if this was a racing lap, he could have got past there.
What sort of pressure can Perez soak up here? Hamilton breathing down his neck. You've got to respond. You see the safety car ending on your dash in Formula 1, so they'll get notified, and then there'll be a countdown on their dash. They can't go too quickly and go quicker than the time that permits on their dash as well. So they'll all be weaving, braking, looking in the mirrors, but looking at the dash. And then if Hamilton can react a little bit better, then he's going to be in with a chance of passing Perez on this restart. But I have to say, Perez did a good job on the last restart, and he soaked up a lot of pressure. I remember in Baku, when there was exactly this order, Verstappen, Perez and Hamilton, and Perez did a good job then to keep Hamilton behind.
Celebrations, I think, soon at the cricket, Ellie Oldroyd.
Yes, the Australians are running onto the field in Dubai, and Mitch Marsh has just got his arms wide, leaps into the arms of his teammates. David Warner punches the air, hugged by Steve Smith. They have won this Australia with great ease, 173 for 2. They've got there with 7 balls to spare. Winning runs hit by Glenn Maxwell, who finished on 28. But Mitch Marsh, 77 off 50 deliveries, one of Australia's most underappreciated characters. But he's won them the T20 World Cup for the first time. They win in the final, beating New Zealand by 8 wickets.
Thank you very much, Eleanor. It's the Brazilian Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live, still behind the virtual safety car, so the car's still going at a slower pace than usual and not allowed to overtake. So Verstappen still leading with Sergio Perez, his Red Bull teammate, in second. Then it's the 2 Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. Hamilton started this race in 10th place, has got up to third, was up to third by about the end of lap 4 or 5. Bottas is behind him in 4th. Leclerc is 5th for Ferrari, ahead of his teammate Carlos Sainz. Sebastian Vettel is 7th for Aston Martin. Gasly, Ricciardo and Ocon, the rest of the top 10. Long old virtual safety car this, isn't it?
Just for a bit of debris. Look like there's a front wing. Here we go.
It's ending now, and now the cars go back up to full racing speed, and Hamilton gets a reasonable virtual safety car restart, but he's slowing. Okay, now it's gone green, but Hamilton has lost quite a lot of ground there, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's lost a lot. There's actually Bottas now much closer to Hamilton. So Lewis not responding very well, and maybe he was just worried about going too quickly, had to jump on the brakes, and then has lost a bit of ground. So back to sort of about a second away from Sergio Perez. Perez once again doing a good job. Hamilton not doing such a good job on that virtual safety car restart.
Lap 14 of 71. Verstappen leading the way, 1.5 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez. Hamilton is not quite within a second of Perez at the moment in order to get the DRS drag reduction system. As they come across the line, well, it's going to be tight anyway, but don't think he is close enough this time around, Hamilton, as they come down towards turn 1. But it won't be long, surely, before Hamilton is able to put Perez under real pressure. Hamilton is still only 2 seconds off the lead of the Grand Prix.
At some point in this race, Hamilton is going to be racing Verstappen. I can't see how that's not going to be the case. He's all right on the back of Sergio Perez, down towards turn 4, not going to make a move from there, but he's just half a second away now. He's got good straight line speed. Now, Mercedes anyway have good straight line speed in their car. It's been a strength for a long time this season. And on top of that, there is maybe an extra little edge for Hamilton because of the new power unit that he's took in, which is why he's had the grid penalty in the first place from yesterday. How aggressive can Perez go to defend? Will he even have a chance, or will Hamilton be too strong on the straight if he picks up the DRS? And there's a pit stop as well at some point. We're expecting 1 or 2 stops, maybe 1 now with all the safety cars. But that's going to be, obviously, as per usual, an opportune moment for Hamilton to make a move and strategy.
Yeah, when are we expecting those pit stops, and / how many pit stops, Jenny?
Yeah, it was going to be a 2-stop with the chance of it being a 1-stop, and I think these safety cars, virtual safety cars, will push that to more likely a 1-stop. Also because the cars are so bunched together, really hard to find a gap if you come into the pits to drop into with clear air. So we were expecting around lap 17. Let's push that back and think it'll be around, well, from lap 20 to 23, they'll start to open it up. But worth bearing in mind the undercut, and I'll let you explain all of this, but the undercut is powerful here. So it might be that Mercedes look to do something with Hamilton to see if they can jump the Red Bulls in the pit stop phase.
The thing is, though, they want the Red Bull they want to be jumping is Max Verstappen, and he's leading the Grand Prix. Perez is second, Hamilton is third. So Hamilton really needs to overtake Perez on the road if he wants to use strategy to get ahead of Verstappen for the lead.
Yeah, he's going to have to overtake one of them on the road. Here's Perez radio.
Get Max to give me DRS. Okay, copy, check.
Get Max to give me DRS. Interesting. So Verstappen, the DRS has only just been enabled, in fact, on this last lap. 16 laps into the Grand Prix. It's usually 3 laps in that you get it, but because of the various safety cars and virtual safety cars, it then sort of gets pushed forward another 3 laps each time. Lap 16 of 71. So Perez wants Verstappen to slow down so that he will get the DRS as well as Hamilton. That hasn't happened at the moment, and Hamilton's just half a second back coming down to turn 1. A little bit too far away this time. Verstappen's lead just 1.8 seconds over Sergio Perez.
I can't see that Red Bull are going to tell Verstappen to slow up a little bit and drop to within 1 second of Perez behind. It would help Perez defend, but I think Verstappen at this point has got to run his own race, and you then maybe getting towards undercut territory because Hamilton will just be a second and a half back from Verstappen at some point. Now there's no spread in the field at all because of the safety car, and so if Verstappen were to pit now, he's coming right out between sort of Mazepin, Raikkonen territory, 15th and 16th. So there's no chance to pit just yet for the race leaders. They need some of the midfielders to pit first, and everyone started on the medium tyres, I think, apart from Yuki Tsunoda, who's had that contact with Lance Stroll. He started on the soft, and he has copped a 10-second penalty for it. So the stewards did care about it, and a significant enough penalty for Tsunoda, who has already been impacted by needing a front wing, and that triggered the safety car, but Stroll sort of got away with it in 11th.
I swear you get a 5-second one for spinning a car around. But anyway, here comes Hamilton, very close to the back of Perez on the run down towards turn 1. Perez has to cover the inside. Hamilton sends it to the outside, round the outside of the first corner, and he goes through. What a brilliant move from Lewis Hamilton to get up into second place. And now he will charge down Max Verstappen. Perez will try and fight him back as they come down towards turn 4. Hamilton covers the inside. Perez in the Red Bull to the outside, and he's back ahead. The Mexican back through, back up into second position, and this is costing them time to Verstappen, but Perez doing a beautiful job for the Red Bull team. Hamilton's pass was exquisite, but Perez came right back at him. Verstappen leads, Perez second, Hamilton third.
Sensational racing from the two of them. First of all, Hamilton's move around the outside was brilliant. Super deep on the brakes. I think Perez hasn't quite clocked that this is a different Lewis Hamilton this weekend. He made that move a few times yesterday. He's got such confidence on the brakes when he's on the outside there on the racing line, but then he runs wide, and it looked like the move was done, but Perez got the DRS and came right back around the outside of Lewis into turn 4, so they're still second and third, and Hamilton now coming out of Junsao, turn 12, up the hill. He's going to have another run.
And he's closer this time than he was previously. Opens the flap in the rear wing again, gains the speed on Sergio Perez. Perez this time covers the inside, Hamilton to the outside once more, but he might be able to get it done a little earlier, and he does, Hamilton. And that should give him a better run out onto the next straight, and he will now stay ahead of Sergio Perez. Hamilton up into second place now, 3.6 seconds back from Max Verstappen. Perez is third, Bottas is fourth. Now the chase begins for Hamilton on lap 19 of 71 in the Brazilian Grand Prix.
How does Max Verstappen defend from this? Hamilton is so quick. He's so quick. And Perez had no choice there. The first time he had a good comeback, recovery into turn 4 around the outside. He was committed and he made it back. That time, Hamilton had the move done slightly earlier on the straight, which meant he could make the apex of turn 1, not have a compromised exit, and Perez just could not fight back. 4 seconds from Verstappen to Hamilton, so he's got a few laps buffer. But how on earth is he going to defend against the Mercedes? Firstly, on track, Hamilton's so quick and he's committed. He's made so many overtakes already this weekend. He knows how to do it. But second of all, even forgetting that, in the strategy stakes, Mercedes are so quick, undercut or overcut. I don't know how Red Bull are going to keep him behind.
So far, he's made 23 overtakes this weekend. Not too shabby, is it? We're now looking at a one-stop race coming in. You've got to make it to at least lap 27 if you're going to make that work. We're on lap 20 at the moment.
So, lap 20 of 71, as you say, Jenny. Verstappen leading, Hamilton across the line. That last lap was just about 1/10 of a second quicker, but he was overtaking Sergio Perez nevertheless. And now we will see what they can do in clear air. Max Verstappen is starting to push as well. Perez is third now, Bottas is fourth. Leclerc and Sainz, the two Ferraris, are fifth and sixth. Gasly is seventh, Vettel is eighth, ninth is Daniel Ricciardo, and 10th is Esteban Ocon. Stroll, Alonso, Giovinazzi, Norris and Tsunoda, the top 15. Raikkonen, Mazepin, Russell, Latifi and Schumacher, the top 20. So Russell's got ahead of Nicholas Latifi somewhere in that for the Williams team. But Verstappen is now responding by being on his way to set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix as well. Can Bottas get ahead of Perez? That's going to be the next interesting question, because then Hamilton will have a buffer to Perez. Not that Perez looks like he's going to be any particular trouble, but certainly when they come to maybe pit windows, it might be. Sebastian Vettel did get ahead of Daniel Ricciardo briefly, I think. They went side by side into turn 4 at Descida del Lago. So Ricciardo must have got Vettel, and then Vettel got back past. So they're having a great little fight over 8th, and 9th is the Aston Martin of Vettel that's 8th. And now that's just changed again. Ricciardo going past Vettel now, coming down into turn 1. So Ricciardo 8th, Vettel 9th. Lovely little scrap between the two former teammates at Red Bull back in 2014.
Similar sort of thing to the Hamilton-Perez move, I think. DRS into turn 1 for Ricciardo. Vettel got him back into 4. And then second time around, Ricciardo looks like he's made it stick, up into 8th place. On his way after a poor start, Daniel Ricciardo.
Verstappen leading the Grand Prix here on 5 Live in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And he is 3.8 seconds ahead of Hamilton. That last lap, Verstappen was 1/10 of a second faster. And these two are now going to be absolutely pushing.
This race is huge for the championship now. First and second. If Verstappen wins, the championship is going to go to 28 points, give or take a fastest lap point. If Hamilton wins, it comes right back down to 14.
We're looking at a 15 point swing.
Yeah, it's huge with 3 races to go that we think should favour Hamilton and Mercedes, and certainly looking at the pace they've got this weekend, it's ominous to think anything else, really. Verstappen needs these points. If he cannot make the most of a weekend that we all thought Red Bull would maybe be slight favourites for, if Verstappen cannot put some good points into Lewis Hamilton this weekend, he might be in more trouble than we think for the championship.
Hashtag BBC F1, mum of Fat Cassie, which is an interesting Twitter handle, but we'll move on from that. How does Verstappen defend against this, Jolien? Well, given the points difference, if there were to be a coming together, it would be more favourable outcome for Verstappen than it would be for Hamilton.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Verstappen can be really, really aggressive. But Perez could have been really, really aggressive. Verstappen might not have the choice to be, the chance to be aggressive, because if Hamilton is too far ahead into turn 1, and it's just Verstappen doing something that's, I mean, in Monza it was deemed a little bit too ambitious given the situation, and it was a little bit, I mean, not cynical, but optimistic from Verstappen, and he got a penalty for it. If Hamilton is too quick, then Verstappen might not have the chance on track to even risk the collision by going aggressive. And if it comes down to strategy, then he won't have either. Red Bull cannot be undercut by Mercedes here. The undercut's powerful. It worked. Do you remember in 2018, they were undercutting each other for the win there, and then Verstappen got taken out by Esteban Ocon. The undercut's powerful, and Red Bull will be wary of it. So if Hamilton can't do it on track, he's got to get close, put pressure on Verstappen to pit. Verstappen will then have to pit early. Lewis can go on longer and then have fresher tyres at the end. That's how so many times this year we've seen that sort of strategy play out. And if we think the Mercedes is quick now, on fresher tyres, it's going to be really, really quick.
Yeah, if Hamilton pits first, he'll have those fresh tyres and be able to be faster than Verstappen while Verstappen's out on the soft tyres. So when Verstappen then emerges from the pits a couple of laps later, in theory, the Mercedes would be ahead. That's the basic principle of the undercut, with Verstappen leading the way, 3.6 seconds ahead of Hamilton. Hamilton was a couple of tenths quicker on that last lap, and 1,000th of a second slower on this current lap. So the gap between them still 3.5 seconds.
But interestingly, it's not that Verstappen has particularly raised his pace, but Hamilton is just had his progress just halted for the moment. Perez actually was the same pace as the two leaders on the last lap. So Perez matching the top two. He's only 3 seconds away from Hamilton. And in fact, he's still closer to Hamilton than Hamilton is to Verstappen.
Yeah.
So is Hamilton now just giving his tyres a bit of a breather before a pit stop phase, or is he coming into a bit of degradation? And that would be obviously a huge bonus for Red Bull, because it would force Hamilton into the pits before he can get into that undercut range.
It's former F1 driver Jolyon Palmer alongside me, Jack Nicholls, and Jenny Gow.
Yeah, just listening across to Max Verstappen's radio, he's being told the deficit, the bit where he's slower, is in the straight lines in sector 2, which is the wiggly bit. He's faster than Hamilton, but constantly in touch with their radio team.
So it's slide a bit more now.
Understood.
Starting to slide a bit more now, says Verstappen.
Rear tyres going away. Medium tyres. 24 laps completed now. He just crosses the line to start lap 25. 3.8 seconds the gap. Last time around, he took nearly 3/10 more to Lewis Hamilton. So he's extending the gap by 3/10. I can't help but just feel that there's more to come, though, from Hamilton. I think there might be another surge, unless he has taken too much out of the tyres. Right now, Hamilton's got no more pace than... well, he's actually slower on the last lap by 1/10 than Perez and Bottas. Bottas is still within 2 seconds of Perez and putting him under pressure. Given everything we've seen this weekend, there's been a big pace advantage that Hamilton's had over his teammate, and certainly Sergio Perez. We've not seen the true pace of Max Verstappen, really, in race trim, because he was stuck behind Bottas yesterday.
Rear's moving around a lot.
So Hamilton basically complaining about the same thing that Verstappen is.
Yeah, so that's the rear tyres sliding, a bit of degradation creeping in. And Red Bull will be pleased to hear that. Verstappen, of course, radioing in a similar thing, starting to slide. But if they're both suffering from it, then it's helping, of course, the car in the lead. Max Verstappen 4 seconds ahead. And if they have both got to pit at this point for their one and only pit stop, there's going to be zero chance of an undercut. Because if Hamilton pits for his new tyres, Verstappen will cover him off on the next lap, and they'll both done their pit stop, be going to the end, and they should, if they have tidy enough pit stops, emerge in the same order.
Earlier on today in the WSL, Chelsea beat Man City 4-0 to move within a point of Arsenal at the top of the table. Arsenal on 19 after 7 games played. Chelsea on 18 after 7 games played, with Brighton in third on 15. And Australia won the T20 Men's Cricket World Cup, beating New Zealand just a couple of minutes ago. And this is the Brazilian Grand Prix here on 5 Live, where Pierre Gasly is the first of the midfield runners to pit. The AlphaTauri driver going on to the hard tyres and making his way back out into the Grand Prix. Lap 26 of 71. Max Verstappen is leading this race. Hamilton started 10th, but is now up into second, 3.7 seconds back from Verstappen in the lead. Perez is third, Bottas is fourth. Mike says, assuming that Max's strategy might be to cause a crash with Hamilton is terrible journalism. Or is it just the realities of things?
It's the realities of things. We've seen it already this year, Mike. If you're rated, it's Hamilton into the pits first.
So Hamilton pits from second place, 3.7 seconds back then from the leader Max Verstappen. On go the medium tyres. It is was Hamilton didn't look, it was a 2.4 second pit stop for Mercedes, looked a little slower than that to me, but it obviously wasn't, and Hamilton is making his way back out onto the circuit then, onto the hard tyres. Also into the pits comes the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. Where is Hamilton going to emerge? I think he's going to be in 6th. Is he still ahead of Sebastian Vettel? And with a bit of clear air to Daniel Ricciardo ahead of him. Yes, so Hamilton has come out in a reasonable gap of clear air. What will Red Bull do now to respond? Do they just have to pit Verstappen this time around?
Just pit him, cover off Hamilton, and you've sort of taken that element out of the way. So Verstappen coming into Jinsao already now, turn 12, short lap here in Interlagos. He's coming up the hill, and I think you just got to respond straight away. Don't give Hamilton a sniff of an undercut. And let's see, does he peel into the pits? He is.
Yes, Verstappen into the pits then, in the Red Bull, from the lead of the Grand Prix, gets down to 80 kilometers an hour, and then trundles into his garage now. Goes up on the jacks, off go the medium tyres, on go the hard tyres. Red Bull very, very strong in the pits, and that was a very, very strong lap, a pit stop from Max Verstappen. Hamilton, though, meanwhile, is just coming down into turn 1 now as he gets onto the brakes, into the left-hander. Verstappen is still going to emerge in front, though, and Hamilton has caught Daniel Ricciardo at not an ideal time, and they're going to come out of the pits very, very close to one another, but Verstappen holds the net lead of the Grand Prix at the moment. Hamilton moves to the inside and passes Ricciardo. I don't think he would have lost too much time behind Daniel Ricciardo there, Hamilton. It wasn't quite enough that time around.
No, he was too far back, Hamilton, to make the undercut, and that's good news for Red Bull. Strategy, at least at pit stop number 1, is taken care of, and Verstappen still not leading the race. Now they're 3rd and 4th. Perez now leading from Bottas because they haven't stopped. But of the drivers that are pitted, Verstappen 3rd, Hamilton 4th, and from 3.5, 4 seconds back, it was too far to do an undercut. So one more lap and he would have had it, though, probably.
Do we still think we're looking at another pit stop then in this Grand Prix? Lap 28 of 71, so not far from half distance.
Well, it could be for Hamilton if he can't make it through on this set of tyres, like for like now, assuming he's got the pace. He didn't have the pace, actually, did he, after he got into 2nd? He actually made no inroads on Verstappen. But it's something that they can try and do. Perez into the pits, onto the hard tyres as well.
Yeah, this is fascinating, just watching Perez come in onto those hard tyres, but the Ferraris locked into doing a 2-stop. They went onto the medium tyres. They only have one set of hard tyres available to them, so they're doing something a little bit different, but curious, locking themselves into that 2-stop, coming in at exactly the same lap as Hamilton did.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out on their progress as the race unfolds then. Valtteri Bottas now leads but has yet to stop. Verstappen is 2nd, just 1.5 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. And then it is Ricciardo in 4th, he's yet to stop. Lando Norris is trying to get past Carlos Sainz, who defended very aggressively, coming down into the Ciudad del Lago. Sainz has pitted. I think Norris has pitted as well, hasn't he?
Norris had the puncture at the start.
Ah, yes,
so Norris is has pitted, but he's not really in sequence with the Ferraris, but he's now back into the top 10 with some of these pit stops.
Hamilton is closing in on Verstappen. It's 1.3 seconds as they come out over the start-finish straight. It's not going to be enough to get the drag reduction system this time and pop open that rear wing flap for some extra straight line speed, but it is now 1.2 seconds as they come across the line, and Hamilton sets the fastest lap of the race. A repeat of that lap next time, and he'll be able to get the DRS. Norris is now going to be under pressure from Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri, who was one of the first drivers to pit, as they fight over 10th position. Gasly, who got his first Formula 1 podium at the Brazilian Grand Prix in 2019, is trying to get ahead of Norris down towards turn 1. Norris holds the outside line. To the inside goes the AlphaTauri of Gasly, and he goes through. Hamilton 1.2 seconds back from Verstappen, though. Bottas still leading the Grand Prix.
Fastest lap of the race, and 4/10 quicker was Lewis Hamilton than Max Verstappen on the last time around. So we might get to that point where we see a battle on track now. He's just lurking outside the DRS zone, and there's a virtual safety car again.
So virtual safety car deployed. That could be an opportunity for Bottas to pit, because he has not yet made his pit stop, and that might not cost him a huge amount of time. It's some tyre rubber that's come off Lance Stroll's car, I think, on the start-finish straight.
It might be a bit of carbon fibre, I think.
Oh yeah,
from
maybe
the
from his
area.
shunt with Tsunoda.
Precisely, left-hand side, and that's come loose for Lance Stroll. So that's why we got some Some marshals running onto the track, clearing the debris.
Bottas pits then, and he's going to come out ahead of Perez here, I think, potentially.
He should do. Stayed out longer. This is an opportune moment for Bottas to pit. Should save 11 seconds from pitting under this virtual safety car, because everyone else is going slowly, and he's going to emerge right into the mix here.
Virtual safety car is ending now, just as Bottas is getting to the end of the pit lane. It hasn't quite gone back to green flag racing yet. Verstappen and Hamilton are both through. So Verstappen back into the lead of the Grand Prix with Hamilton in second, and Bottas will emerge then in third place.
Yeah, we can't get ourselves let undercut again, okay?
I copy that.
So Verstappen saying we can't let ourselves get undercut again, i.e. we can't afford Mercedes to pit before us and then take the lead of the Grand Prix. That is obviously quite clear strategy that they're going to do another pit stop.
Yeah. Well, even if they don't, Red Bull might cover off another pit stop, and then Hamilton, then the only thing he might do is try and go to the end on the hard tyres he's on. So there's the option to try and eke out a one-stopper, but it does seem like a two-stop from here is going to be the way. The safety car and a couple of virtual safety cars will have just extended these stints slightly and moved it towards a one-stopper. But for now, Verstappen back in the lead of the race, 1.2 seconds clear of Hamilton, and it's game on again.
Just spoken to Pirelli. They reckon the one stop from now for Hamilton or Verstappen is marginal, but it is possible. And just a note on Bottas, he couldn't have timed that better. The virtual safety car, his stop was 2.6 seconds. He only lost 14 seconds compared to 21 seconds if it had pitted in normal conditions. It was perfection for Mercedes. A bit of luck.
Yeah, it was good timing for them, really. It was a bit of luck that bit of bodywork came off from Stroll. Otherwise, Bottas was going to be coming out a long way behind Perez. As it is, he's pitted and emerged 3 seconds ahead, so it wasn't even close in the end with that virtual safety car. It is close for the lead, though. 8 tenths between leader Max Verstappen, second place Lewis Hamilton. Going back to Mike's point really quickly.
Oh yeah, about saying that Verstappen is just going to ram Hamilton is not good journalism.
Well, yeah, he's not going to intentionally ram Lewis Hamilton, but he could be aggressive, because what you'd rather, if you're in championship leader, you'd rather crash with your rival than finish behind. That's the reality of the situation. It's not going to be cynical, but you can put your car in a lot of risky places and say you've got to make the move stick, basically.
I guess the better way to phrase it is Hamilton cannot afford to accidentally have an accident, whereas Verstappen, an accident isn't the worst thing in the world. So not that he's deliberately out for one, because then that's not an accident, but an accident isn't the end of the world for Verstappen.
But Jack, it's the same for both of them. But right now, as it stands, would Hamilton rather that neither of them score points today, or would he rather that Verstappen wins and he comes second?
Yeah.
He'd rather that neither of them score. So if you'd rather that no one scores than just accept finishing second. Now, the only way this is going to happen is if Hamilton can be making a move for the lead, and then the one that comes off worse. We've seen it in Monza. Verstappen was looking like he was going to be in trouble, went for quite an ambitious move, and they came to blows. Silverstone as well. It was a big move for Lewis Hamilton on the first lap. He'd followed Verstappen all day before in the sprint, and it was a chance for him to go for it. He went for a really brave move, and there was a collision. They were really marginal calls, sort of racing incidents I would have had them as, but the stewards put the blame in Hamilton's way at Silverstone and Verstappen's in Monza, and it's the reality of the situation. I've been there in a championship fight myself in GP2, and you can risk it sometimes with the person that you're fighting with, because you would rather they don't score and you don't score than you finish behind them.
Verstappen on that last lap, just over 1/10 of a second quicker than Hamilton. The gap back up to 1.2 seconds as Hamilton continues to chase down Verstappen for the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix. It's 5 seconds now back to Valtteri Bottas in third.
You're 3 tenths quicker in the middle sector at the moment. Just straight line deficits.
Well, Verstappen being told that it's only the straight lines where Hamilton is quicker, but that's where you're going to make the overtake. Lap 34 of 71, approaching half race distance in the Brazilian Grand Prix. Jenny Gao.
Yeah, just looking at the points, and Valtteri Bottas at the moment has just taken fastest lap, which is worth 1 point from his teammate Lewis Hamilton, slightly bizarrely. So as things stand, Verstappen would lead the championship on 339.5 points, with Lewis Hamilton on 311.5 points, which is a gap, if I do my maths right, of 28 points.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still a long way to go, and that fastest lap will change because they'll all go on to a new set of tyres with a much lighter car. So, and then we might have Bottas and Perez pitting and fighting it out for the fastest lap as well. So, long way to go in that one. Lap 34 of 71. Behind the top four of Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas and Perez, it's Leclerc in 5th. Alonso 6th has yet to stop, still on the medium tyres. Sainz is 7th, 8th is Gasly, Ricciardo is 9th. 10th is Lando Norris, Tsunoda, Ocon, Vettel, Russell, Stroll, the top 15. Giovinazzi, Raikkonen, Latifi, Mazepin and Schumacher. The 20 drivers still running as they come across the line again. The gap remains at 1.3 seconds. Verstappen a 10th quicker than Hamilton on that last tour.
On the face of it, telling Max Verstappen that he's losing all his time on the straights and he's quicker through the corners is a bit of a pointless radio message because he can't do anything about that. It's like, well done, you're doing well through the bits that you could control, the corners, but Mercedes are too quick on the straights. But actually, the cornering pace of Verstappen in the middle sector, slightly sticky stop that was from Fernando Alonso, who's just come in 4 seconds, pitting from 6th place, tumbles down the order. For Verstappen, being quicker in the middle sector where the corners are is actually critical because it means that he can stay out of DRS range of Hamilton. At the moment, 1.3 seconds was the gap over the line. Hamilton is there, he's just stalking Verstappen. But with the Red Bull pace through those corners in the middle sector, a bit of dirty air for Hamilton behind. Hamilton cannot close in till within 1 second and get the DRS just yet, and that's powerful. When you get the DRS, then you can get that plus a slipstream. You get a huge run into turn 1.
But this kind of region, if they were to pit now, Hamilton would take the lead, but they can't pit now because they need to go further on the tyre. But he's within the undercut range, basically, of Verstappen at this point.
And how early? Verstappen's saying he cannot afford to be undercut. Well, how early do they blink? Clearly, if Hamilton pits now, goes for a new set of tyres, there's negligible gain. They've only just come out of the pits, 5 laps ago? What's the point, really? You get 5 laps fresher tyres, but you lose 20-odd seconds. At what point do they think this is the moment to cover him off? Because if Hamilton's just sitting there 1.2 seconds back, they could pull the trigger any lap here and try and go to the end. And there'll be some point, right now, as we say, there's no real gain in pitting because Verstappen's still on fresher tyres. But with every lap that goes by, the gain is getting more and more. And at some point, the gain will be significant enough that the pit stop can be crucial.
And it's just another Grand Prix where Verstappen and Hamilton are fighting each other. They're fighting each other for the lead of the race. They're separated by 1.2 seconds, pounding round faster than everybody else on the circuit. And that is what, for me, is making it such a tremendous Formula One season. We've had a few races where we haven't really seen this. Hamilton versus Verstappen at the front in a full-on fight. But this is one of the most entertaining of the year so far.
This is a season for the ages, and this race is just set up. It's poised so well. And the Red Bull team and the Mercedes team, the disdain they have for each other right now, I can't even put it into words. Red Bull protested Hamilton's car after qualifying on Friday. They got him sent to the back of the grid. There's been so much more brewing between the two teams all year with rear wing, flexi rear wing clarifications that came in earlier, the pit stop timings and trying to get them less automated. That's both been against Red Bull that Mercedes have issued to the FIA. It's been bubbling away. Then that's just the teams, the drivers. As I've said, they've come to blows already twice this year, and that's not been, completely harmonious. And one of them apologises for the incident, and we'll get on with it. Verstappen tweeted after Silverstone that Hamilton lacked respect as he celebrated as Verstappen was in hospital following that big shunt. And the other way around, Hamilton wasn't best pleased when Verstappen's car landed on his head in Monza and he just walked away without checking that he was okay. There's a lot riding on this. It's a world championship, but the feelings, I don't think there's maybe respect for the pace and the performance of the competition, but in a personal way, they really, really want this.
Into the second half of the Brazilian Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live. Lap 38 of 71, Verstappen leading. Hamilton continuing to chase, 1.4 seconds back. Bottas has got a bit of pace at the moment. He's been quicker than the front two on the last few laps. His hard tyres are a little newer, maybe sort of 4 or 5 laps, I reckon, as Lando Norris now, Jenny, comes into the pits.
Yeah, now Lando came in on lap 1 after that puncture and turned onto the hard tyres. So a lot of people watching him to see how long he could do. He's obviously done 37 laps on those hard tyres. He'll drop down now, but I think his two-stop strategy will put him level with everybody else. He's going on to new hard tyres. So let's see what he can do. It's a battle between Ferrari and McLaren for third place in the championship.
Yeah, I don't think Norris is getting points today. He's come out in 17th place.
He'll fight for points, but he'll be on very used tyres. He's going to be going to the end there. As you say, coming out in 17th, but with fresh tyres now against Kimi Räikkönen, his next target ahead. He has just pitted from the top 10, and that's where, when everyone else pits, he should sort of get back to, but he will be on pretty used tyres at the end of the race, and that's going to be Lando's issue.
Sebastian Vettel is fighting with Yuki Tsunoda over 10th position. Esteban Ocon got ahead of Tsunoda a few laps ago, and Vettel looks set to do so this time around. They're coming up towards Junsao at the final corner, and this will be a fairly straightforward move, I think, for Vettel, although Fernando Alonso is right in there as well. So we're going to have a nice three-way fight, maybe even go three wide. Coming down into turn 1, all over 10th position, the final points-paying position. Vettel to the inside very, very early, and Tsunoda luckily saw him coming, and Vettel goes through, and Alonso goes through as well. Brave stuff that from Vettel. Not the classic way to do it, but he gets through up into 10th.
Probably one of those ones that from the onboard shot there was more space than it looked from the outside, but I was wincing as Vettel went to the inside there. Thought that could have been a huge accident. There wasn't a lot of space because their sort of left hand just curves. Yeah, it was pretty straightforward from another angle, but just from our shot on the outside, it looked like there was not a lot of space. But Vettel comfortably through, and Alonso just followed him. So they're up into 10th and 11th now.
Lap 40 of 71. Brazilian Grand Prix. 3 to go after this. Here's Hamilton's radio.
So if we're to stop again, what tyre would you prefer?
Check colour and switch. Movement. That's for the tyre, mate.
Copy, we're on it.
I would suggest, I've got no idea what he said, Julian.
I think he's selected it on his dash.
I think so he didn't want to say it on the radio.
He doesn't want to say it on the radio because Red Bull will be listening in. So Hamilton keeping his cards close to his chest. He's just 1 second back from Verstappen, and he doesn't want to say it.
Alonso going around the outside of Sebastian Vettel down into turn 1. So Alonso is now up into 10th place in the Alpine, and the Aston Martin of Vettel drops down to 11th. Yuki Tsunoda has pitted. He was one of the first to, actually it was Gasly who was one of the first to pit, but Tsunoda has now pitted as well. So he's dropping down the field, and Verstappen is coming in now. Max Verstappen from the race lead into the pits for a new set of hard tyres, and he's coming in right behind Nicholas Latifi. Now, last time Verstappen was leading the Grand Prix, he got almost caught out by a pit lane exiting Robert Kubica in a Williams at the end of the pit lane. We'll see what happens this time around. Verstappen stopped 2.7 seconds. Is the Williams going to emerge in front? It is, and Verstappen will have to clear it. It's not super close, but it will compromise Verstappen just a little bit. Now, lap 41 of 71. They haven't been on these tyres for 15 laps or so. Verstappen's going to 13 laps. Verstappen's got to go to the end of the Grand Prix now. Will Mercedes decide to extend?
Well, first of all, what is Hamilton doing on this lap? Verstappen has now cleared Latifi, but it wouldn't have been the cleanest pit lane exit from him. But Hamilton is not on a personal best at the moment, so I don't think Hamilton's going to be able to do an overcut with his tyres that should be in decent nick still. Hard tyres that he put on, about 15 laps ago. Should be okay, but I don't think he's going to be in an overcut range now with Verstappen choosing to go for the new tyres. So what do Mercedes do? Do they extend and pit again, or do they try and go to the end? And I think they might try and go to the end here and take the track position.
The message from Pete Bonington was, if we pit again. But Mercedes are in the pits, and it's for Bottas. Valtteri Bottas pits then, in the Mercedes. But yeah, Pete Bonington, the engineer, said, if we pit again, what do you want to do?
Why is Bottas pitted at that point? It's a strangely timed pit stop from Bottas. Perez wasn't right behind him. If Bottas remained ahead of Verstappen, that might have given them something to hold back Verstappen slightly, but with his pit stop, he drops behind.
Are you sure about this?
Bottas saying, are you sure about this? Willem
the last
says...
to pit on the first stint, wasn't he? Because he pitted under the safety car. So he had the freshest tyres of all the front bunch. He emerges just behind Charles Leclerc, who's on a 14-lap-old medium tyre. Can't quite see what they're trying to do here with Bottas.
Well, He's emerged in 5th position, as you say. How quickly is he going to be able to get ahead of Charles Leclerc? We'll wait and see. Sebastian Vettel has, meanwhile, it's going past him. Sorry, it's Stroll. It's Lance Stroll fighting with, I think, George Russell, then making the place, but now George Russell has pitted anyway. So it was, it wasn't many laps for Valtteri Bottas on that 11 laps it was on that hard tyre. And into the pits now comes Perez.
Yeah, so this is going to be the same thing.
So is that Bottas trying not to get undercut by Perez?
I don't think Perez was close enough to undercut Bottas. Bottas is clearing Charles Leclerc on this lap. Into turn 1 he goes, ahead of Leclerc. Nice and easy move from Bottas, and he's a long way ahead of Sergio Perez. Okay. Maybe it was super cautious from Bottas, but then again, you go too cautious and there's another virtual safety car, and he'll end up behind.
Lap 43 of 71. Hamilton leads the Grand Prix, but has not made a second stop. Verstappen is second. Third is Bottas. Fourth is Leclerc. Fifth is Perez. Then it's Sainz, Gasly, Ricciardo, Ocon and Alonso. So, well, what do Mercedes... The choices now for Mercedes are you stay out, you've got an 18-second lead over Verstappen, and you try and eke that out to the end of the Grand Prix. But that's not what's happening. Mercedes into the pit lane.
How do you want me to approach this?
Look after the tyre, Max. Look after the tyre.
Look after the tyre is the message to Verstappen. Hamilton comes into the pits now for a new set of hard tyres. On he goes, and out he goes. And Verstappen is going to retake the lead of the Grand Prix here. And Hamilton is making his way towards the exit of the pit lane now. Verstappen sweeps around the outside of turn 1 and retakes the lead of the race. Hamilton will emerge in second place again. Bottas does the fastest lap of the Grand Prix in third. Leclerc is fourth because Perez is still behind him, but Verstappen back in the lead of the race. Very curious pit stop window there, because no one seemed to do anything to try and win the race almost. Well, other than Red Bull.
Hamilton now has a 2-lap tyre advantage over Verstappen to go to the end. Were the hard tyres just dropping away?
3 laps. 3 laps.
No, I asked for a different...
No, Lewis, it's a long stint, and the wear was high on that medium.
So Hamilton's saying, no, I wanted the medium tyre. If I'm going to come out behind him, I want the medium tyres so I can attack him. And the team have overruled him, basically.
Yeah, well, they asked him a while ago what tyre they wanted. I wonder if that conversation prompted Verstappen to pit then anyway. And now he's got 3 laps fresher tyres.
I think we just threw away an easy 1-2.
Bottas saying, I think we just threw away an easy 1-2.
Presumably by pitting.
Yeah.
Bottas thinks they should have stayed out. I can't quite understand the logic of what Mercedes have done here.
Because there's no threat for... Well, the threat for Hamilton is Sergio Perez. And Perez is 8 seconds back from Hamilton. And so there's no need to sort of... I get that you don't want to get Hamilton if he has to pit and then he comes out behind Perez again or something in the closing stages. But he would have been more than that, because obviously he wouldn't have pitted, so he would have had a 26-second advantage over Perez. So I can't work this one out.
Yeah, there was no threat from Perez, and we've seen it before in Austin a couple of races ago. They wanted to go as long as possible and keep going and keep going and keep going to get a bigger offset in the tyre life. 3 laps is not a huge amount. They've got 26 to go.
Is the undercut not powerful?
No, not really, but we should have more traffic in about 10 laps or so.
Well, so is the undercut not powerful? That's Hamilton. Because he's back to 1.3 seconds from Verstappen, and he pitted 3 laps later, so he's wondering why Verstappen, I think, isn't further ahead. And given that, why did Hamilton pit at that point?
So I've just spoken to Mercedes. They say they were about to hit traffic and lose lots more time to Verstappen, so they boxed, although we had wanted to extend.
Interesting. So they wanted to extend, but there's not. I mean, I'm not Mercedes know what they're doing, but I don't see where the traffic is. There's Stroll, Norris and Raikkonen a bit further up the road.
Before Hamilton pitted. So it was, if Hamilton hadn't pitted, he was about to come into traffic.
Okay, good point.
So it's 20 seconds up the road. But even so, I think Red Bull will be very happy that Mercedes had pitted. 3 laps fresher tyres, that will give him a bit of an advantage, and Hamilton's still quick. He's just 1 second away from Verstappen, and that's where he was the whole way through that middle stint as well. But is 3 laps fresher tyres enough to get him within DRS range and to go and attack Verstappen for the lead?
And I presume the message about the undercut, he expected sort of Verstappen to be further away, was because Verstappen presumably didn't go, you know, full out on the tyres as soon as he got going again. Hamilton's only half a second behind and he sets the fastest lap of the race.
Here we go then. Attack mode from Hamilton. He's got DRS down to turn 4.
Not close enough into Descida del Lago, but it's now or never really for Hamilton. There's no more pit stops to come. He's got to overtake Max Verstappen on the track if he wants to win the Brazilian Grand Prix. Up into Ferradura, the quick right-hander, down a couple of gears at 130 miles an hour, and then into the slow, tight, twisty section. Through the right-hander at 60 miles an hour, then through the left at Pinheiro at 70 miles an hour, and then up towards Bico de Pato, the slowest corner on the circuit, and Hamilton is just 8 tenths behind Max Verstappen this time around. He's going to get the DRS, but maybe he's dropped a little too far away in the twisty stuff. Here they come now, through Junsao, and out onto the start-finish straight. The gap is just under a second. Hamilton will get the DRS. Is it going to be enough? Down the start-finish straight, building up to over 200 miles an hour, and Hamilton still seems a little bit too far back as they come charging down into turn 1. He's closing, looks to the inside. Verstappen covers the inside off, and that could give Hamilton a better run up towards turn 4. Verstappen's a little bit wide at the left-hand part of the S's, and now Hamilton is right behind him, coming down towards Descida del Lago. Verstappen covers the inside, Hamilton goes to the outside. Right around the outside here would be brave, especially with Verstappen, and he's forced off the circuit. They're both miles off the circuit. Hamilton goes through the grass on the way back on, and Verstappen, well, that was some aggressive defence.
Neither of them were willing to yield, and that's kind of what we expected, really. 2 racing each other on track, and Verstappen just sent it on the inside. Hamilton, you said it was going to be brave on the outside, and indeed that was the case. If he tried to stay on the track, he would have been wiped into at that point. And Verstappen sent it from quite a way back, and he's washed Hamilton pretty wide there.
This is the brink of what is fair racing. That is right on the brink from Verstappen. He's held the lead. He's now 1.2 seconds ahead of Hamilton, but he's made no effort to sort of make the corner there. And I don't think it's illegal.
Well, he's forcing another driver off the track, isn't it? And he's gone off the track himself.
It's right on the brink.
I think the steward, I'd be surprised if we don't have a radio message from Hamilton expressing his dissatisfaction with it.
It's been noted by the stewards, that incident. Basically, through the left-hander, you can go wide on the exit there, and there's just tarmac runoff, so Verstappen has just driven his car off the road so that Hamilton also has to go off the road. That's a tough one.
You know what it was a bit like?
Tell me.
Cops, lap 1. Only Verstappen tried to stay on the track there, and Hamilton opened it up this time to use the runoff. But Verstappen was sending it in from a little bit back, and he didn't make the corner.
And that incident is under investigation.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't think the stewards are going to be happy with that, I have to say. It's a shame that we might have this race decided by a sort of penalty. It would be a 5-second penalty, possibly, according to the rules. But
the thing is, Verstappen's gone so far wide and off that if Verstappen stays on the circuit, he's got some defence, but he's gone 2 car widths off the track as well.
Yeah, and he's come from a decent chunk behind when they've hit the braking zone. That's the thing.
But I'm not sure we can make this to the end.
Verstappen saying, I'm not sure we can make this to the end. Here they come down towards Descida del Lago again, the left-hander at turn 4. And Verstappen holds the advantage still for the moment on lap 50 of 71. Another big call from the stewards to make here. Lance Stroll is out of the Grand Prix, presumably too much damage from that contact he had earlier on with Yuki Tsunoda, and we saw bits of bodywork flying off the car as well. on board with Hamilton now as he comes through Pinheiro. Ocon has got ahead of Ricciardo. Those two still fighting. And actually, Alonso's got ahead of Ricciardo as well. Oh, it's because he's coming to the pits. The McLaren driver into the pits. Here's Bottas' radio.
So things are heating up at the front. There might be penalties coming.
Bottas being told penalties might be coming. Jenny Gao.
Yeah, just thinking about these two drivers, they're both spectacular, but every time it seems that they're pressurising each other for the lead of the race, especially on a sprint weekend, it gets a little bit dirty. It's what we've come to expect from them. You can say let them race, but I tell you what, a lot of people online saying that's a clear penalty.
The thing is, you don't want it to be decided by Verstappen now. In theory, gets given a 5-second time penalty, and then Hamilton just sits behind him, and then that's the end of the Grand Prix. He's closing in on Verstappen here coming into Descida do Lago, but not close enough. 21 laps to run in the Brazilian Grand Prix. Hamilton tried to pass Verstappen around the outside at turn 4. Verstappen just ran them both quite a long way off the road, and I think more controversy in this 2021 Formula One World Championship season is incoming. Penalty or no penalty, there's controversy.
Oh, to be a Formula One steward this year.
Have they ever asked you?
No.
Oh, have they not?
No.
Oh.
Well, they know I'm busy commentating with you, Jack.
Oh, fine.
I think Hamilton can make it on the track here, though, regardless.
Ricciardo pits and is out of the race, actually. So Ricciardo retiring, and Norris now is up into 11th in the other McLaren. Frustrating day here for McLaren, especially with the Ferraris in 5th and 6th as they fight over 3rd in the Constructors' Championship. Rest of the order behind Verstappen and Hamilton is Bottas, Perez, Leclerc, the top 5. Sainz, Gasly, Ocon, Alonso, Vettel, the top 10. Norris, Raikkonen, Russell, Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, the top 15. Latifi, Mazepin, Schumacher is the 18 drivers.
So there could be a 5-second penalty coming for Verstappen, and that's why Bottas was getting the hurry up. He's 8.5 seconds back from Verstappen, going through a bit of traffic at the moment. But if he can get within 5 seconds, it could be critical.
Go ahead,
Michael. That is all about let them race. That's all about let them race.
Yep, no problems. That's why I'm just having a look at it, Jonathan. There is nothing further than that. Thank you for your input.
Thank you for your receiving it.
My pleasure.
So that's Jonathan Wheatley, who's the sporting director at Red Bull, getting on the radio to Michael Massey, the race director, and saying, if you want, let them race and let them fight wheel to wheel, that's what you get. Pretty wrong from Wheatley, for me personally, to say that let them race means don't drive on the track.
Look, what was Silverstone? They wanted a race ban for Lewis Hamilton after Silverstone for doing effectively a similar sort of thing. And Hamilton did get a 5-second penalty that day. He got a 10-second penalty, didn't he?
And then Verstappen got a penalty for the crash in Monza.
No crash this time, but that is because Hamilton just went really wide and used the runoff area.
No investigation necessary. Oh, that's big. Wow. So someone tweeted, I've lost it now, but Whiskey says, don't want it to be decided by a penalty, so deliberate illegal driving should go unpunished, is what you're saying. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it's a shame if time penalties are how the race is decided, but no decision there, no investigation from the stewards is a huge call.
I don't think they've got it right, honestly. Now, for the race, it's great that there's no penalty, because Hamilton and Verstappen could still fight this out on track. But according to the rules, I don't think they've got it right. It's a huge decision. A little bit like the Vettel-Hamilton decider in Canada a couple of years ago, and that day Vettel got a 5-second penalty, and there was outrage on the back of it. I feel this is a similar situation where actually we've seen lesser transgressions get penalised this year.
Now, Pete Bonington, Lewis Hamilton's race engineer, did actually tell him it was under investigation when it was only noted. So he's going to have to go back and tell Lewis Hamilton that actually it wasn't even investigated. But we know what Hamilton can do when he's angry. Don't make him angry.
Very true. Verstappen leading the Grand Prix still. Hamilton is still hunting him down. He's just 0.4 of a second behind. And now he'll know that he will have to go for it and try and overtake him again.
And we are set up for a thrilling finale here, regardless now. So, 17 laps to go. Verstappen doesn't think he can go to the end.
So, Lewis, apparently no investigation necessary for running you off track.
Of course, man. Of course.
Of course, says Hamilton. No investigation necessary. Is that a cop-out? The fact that they're not even looking at it and making a decision?
Well, the stewards have looked at it and decided that they don't need to intervene, is what no investigation necessary means, I believe, off the back of no investigation necessary on the Ricciardo Bottas crash last time out. Mercedes might feel pretty hard done by with the stewards this weekend, and you can tell it with Hamilton's radio communication there. Thrown to the back for the rear wing, basically braking or having an issue with it during qualifying. Now, that issue gave Hamilton some lap time. His car then failed post-scrutineering checks, and you can understand why they were thrown out, but Mercedes were not happy about it. And I mean, if Hamilton can't get through on track, there's going to be some controversy after this one. But he's still within a second, so let's see if he can do it on track. Verstappen pitted earlier. There's 3 laps difference in the tyres.
So crowding off track and gaining an unfair advantage, and no action necessary.
Ron, having looked at it all completely, it was one of those, and obviously had a good look at it. That's why we've gone for a no investigation.
That was Ron Meadows from Mercedes talking to Michael Massey, the race director. We did say it before, like, whichever way it goes, it's controversial, because it's a controversial moment on the track. Whether Verstappen gets a penalty, if Verstappen gets a penalty, it's controversial. Some people will think it wasn't a penalty. If no penalty, it's controversial, because people will think Verstappen should have got a penalty. So whichever way, it was always going to cause a ruckus, but I think it's gone the more controversial way, honestly.
Every decision this year is just polarising between these two. Yeah. They've got huge and loyal fan bases, Hamilton and Verstappen, and we've had it on both sides now, Silverstone and Monza. And here, the decision not to investigate it, I do think they've got this one wrong. Verstappen was so deep off the... and he's
slowed as well.
He's so far off the track, he's not made it himself, let alone forced another driver off track, and he's come from a good chunk behind. For me, all day long, that's a 5-second penalty for forcing another driver off the road. Hamilton just couldn't make the corner. He could have done both where he braked, but there was a Red Bull on the way steaming off the road on the inside. It's a difficult one that Massey's got to explain there, I think, afterwards. But it does mean, for what it's worth, we get to see the last 15 laps decided on track.
Absolutely. Kaylee says, hold on though, nobody was outraged when Charles Leclerc got a black and white flag instead of a penalty when he was leading the race in Italy 2019. Why is this any different? Kaylee's a big old listener and a long-term listener, but I think we were both outraged in 2019, Kaylee, to be honest.
Listen to that one back. That was a disgrace of a decision, as proven this year by someone doing the same thing. I think Vettel and Ocon.
Yeah.
And it was a penalty. I think that one was fairly black and white as well, but the race goes on. 7 tenths between the two.
Tight stuff.
But this is what we were saying all the way back to the point of was it Mark who tweeted in earlier on, and we're talking about would Verstappen risk the crash with Hamilton if he possibly could? And you know, he will not let Hamilton take this lead without putting up the maximum possible fight, and that's what he did. Hamilton chose not to crash. He chose to use the runoff area rather than turn in and get wiped out by the Red Bull that was in way too hot on the inside. But this is Verstappen in desperate defence mode. The laps are ticking away. They're coming through to finish lap 57 of 71. Hamilton has DRS again.
Closing in on Max Verstappen down towards turn 1. Hasn't really had a go at Verstappen, but this time Verstappen covers the inside line. That's what allowed Hamilton to have the look at Descida do Lago. A little bit slidey from Verstappen, coming through the centre S. Now through the long left-hander onto the Curva de Sol, and this is the closest Hamilton has been again. Verstappen is weaving around to try and break the slipstream. Hamilton to the outside once more. This time doesn't go all the way around the outside. Tries to get the cut back, get on the power earlier, but he's not able to do it. Verstappen holds the lead, but that's the first time for 10 laps that Hamilton's been close enough to make another overtaking manoeuvre for the lead, and it doesn't work this time either. Verstappen, that's what we'll call the season review. Verstappen leads, Hamilton second, Bottas still third, Perez still fourth, Leclerc, Sainz, Ocon, Alonso, Ocon, Gasly, Norris, the top 10.
So Hamilton has had this odd period where this investigation has been ongoing. Now, he, I'm sure, felt that Verstappen should have had a penalty. So why bother trying to attack him again if he's about to get a penalty? Because you're going to risk a crash, and that will void the penalty. Now he's back on the tail of Verstappen, but we kind of know that he cannot go around the outside of turn 4 because Verstappen can legally do what he did just then. Hamilton very close again, looks to the inside of 1 and makes Verstappen defend.
This is what gives Hamilton the run up towards turn 4. They're on the power, and I think Hamilton's closer this time around than he was before. This is the big moment for Hamilton to take the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix. Goes to the outside, and he squeezes Verstappen, chops right across in front of him, and takes the lead of the Grand Prix. Bold move from Hamilton, and he's into the front.
And that is not giving Max Verstappen a chance to do anything else. He just did him on the straight, cut across to make sure that Verstappen didn't even have an inside line to throw his Red Bull down and keep Hamilton somehow at bay again. And Lewis finally hits the front, 12 laps remaining. A big move for the championship, that. And it all comes from Verstappen defending at turn 1. And I don't think he's had to defend on any of those occasions. Hamilton wasn't about to lunge it, but he's just putting Verstappen offline, and then he gets a much better run out of turn 4. That's the 3rd time he's done it now, and this one was the best run of all, and he's made the place.
That squeeze was brave, wasn't it? Up against a Verstappen who sort of has nothing to lose. He has the championship lead to lose, but oh, that was brave.
Beautiful work, Lewis.
Beautiful work, say the team.
And Verstappen gets a black and white flag for his troubles as well, for weaving on the straight the lap before. The thing is, it's kind of brave, but he just measured the width of his car, the length of his car perfectly.
Yeah.
There's nothing Verstappen can do if Hamilton's just ahead. He can't just ram into the back of Lewis, because then you're into a cynical collision. What he can do is, if there's a space on the inside, throw his car there and try and hold on. But Hamilton then covered off the inside and gave Max absolutely no option. It was a tidy move from Lewis Hamilton, and he's got the lead of the race. Huge.
The Mercedes garage went nuts, as you can imagine. Toto Wolff, the team principal, sitting right at the back of it, using another profanity, another swear word to just say how he feels about that. He is delighted, I can assure you. 120,000 fans have packed into Interlagos today, and they were screaming as well. They are delighted to see this battle for the championship at their circuit.
And this is what I was alluding to earlier with the whole, I hope it's not decided by a time penalty, because yes, okay, penalty or no penalty, still controversial, but we've seen the move for the lead on the track, and that is what motor racing's about. So tremendous to see Hamilton and Verstappen fighting it out wheel to wheel on that occasion, and that it's not going to be a controversial win for Hamilton if he can hold on for the next 11 laps. He leads, Verstappen is 2nd, Bottas is 3rd, Perez is 4th, 5th is Leclerc, 6th is Sainz, Alonso and Ocon are 7th and 8th. And although Pierre Gasly has just got ahead of Ocon into 8th position, 9th is now Ocon, 10th is Lando Norris, Vettel, Raikkonen, Russell, Giovinazzi and Tsunoda the top 15, Latifi, Mazepin, Schumacher, the 18 drivers. This is the Brazilian Grand Prix here on 5 Live.
Valtteri, go and get him.
That's Toto Wolff. He's wound up, isn't he?
I think Toto Wolff is the more pumped of anyone at the moment. The way that he celebrated when Verstappen Hamilton came through for the move for the lead there. This meant so much to him and the team.
This is really Red Bull versus Mercedes. This isn't just Hamilton versus Verstappen. 21 points was the difference coming into today's race between Verstappen at the top and Hamilton. If it stays like this, I can tell you Hamilton has the fastest lap at the moment. It would swing back. 13 points would be the difference between Verstappen at the top and Hamilton in 2nd place.
Hamilton started this race from 10th on the grid. He's now leading. He started the sprint race yesterday from the back of the grid. Jolyon and I were eating some food and having a chat, and when it was announced that Hamilton would be starting from the back of the grid for the qualifying race, you said that was it. Championship's done. Championship's over. And what's the point in flying to the last 3 races, I think you said. But it looks like we'll be flying there now.
The championship couldn't be more alive right now. But who could have seen Hamilton pulling off these 2 drives, the sprint yesterday? Now, we shouldn't forget, having a sprint race has saved Lewis Hamilton this weekend. Without the sprint format, he's starting 20th and not 10th. And from 20th, can he win the race? I don't think so. So the sprint has saved him, but it saved him because he put in an absolutely tremendous performance to get to 5th from the back in 24 laps. And then again today, I think the pace of the Mercedes here is just electrifying, and Red Bull will be immensely worried about heading to the next 3 circuits, which we thought would favour Mercedes more than we thought they'd be strong here. They're circuits with long straights, fast corners, good for the Mercedes car over the course of the year. So this is not turning out the way that Red Bull and Max Verstappen would have expected, or even in their wildest dreams at the end of Friday evening's qualifying, or Saturday's decision. They never thought it was about this. They thought it was about maximising the points they can score. Instead, Hamilton's going to take points out of Verstappen's championship lead as it stands.
So you are coming with us to Qatar next week?
We're off to Qatar.
Lap 63 of 71, the closing stages, unbelievably, of the Brazilian Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live, where Hamilton started 10th, picked his way through the order, assisted as well by virtual safety cars and, well, actually more by the full-on safety car after he'd made his way up into 3rd position. And now he's 3 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen. Verstappen is 8 seconds clear of Valtteri Bottas. Bottas was only 2/10 quicker on that last lap. Jolyon Palmer, the former Renault F1 driver, alongside myself, Jack Nicholls, and Jenny Gow, here with you on 5 Live after an entertaining day of sport on the network. Man City losing 4-0 to Chelsea in the Women's Super League, as Chelsea are now just 1 point behind Arsenal at the top there. The T20 World Cup was won by Australia.
It was a black and white flag for weaving on the straight.
Yeah, perfect. Say hi.
Neither of them are happy with the stewards, are they?
Well, I don't know. I mean, a black and white flag for weaving on the straights, a warning, and it was a little bit late, really, for Verstappen the next lap through. As he was getting that black and white flag, Hamilton came past. So I think the stewards could breathe a sigh of relief that it's ended up with Hamilton ahead on the track anyway, and it will maybe just mean that the questions aren't there for them.
Well, lap 64 of 71. Mark says, don't forget, if there was no sprint race, Hamilton's wing would have been found out in practice and not quali. Interesting.
It wouldn't have been protested, but well, it failed on Friday, didn't it? So if it failed in FP2 and they checked it on Saturday morning, then they might have changed it.
Interesting
All
little
buts and maybes, yeah.
I love these mirror universe thoughts. Thank you very much for that, Mark. Lap 65 of 71. So much to digest in the Checker Flag podcast later on. But just really quickly, briefly, does Mercedes' strategy look right now? Because when they made that call, everyone was a bit perplexed, most notably the drivers.
Well, 3 laps fresher tyres seems to have done the job for Hamilton. He was quicker. He's been quicker all weekend, but that middle stint there, or the first stint when he caught Verstappen, he couldn't reel him in once he got there. The middle stint, he got to a second away, but couldn't make the difference. Suddenly, with just 3 laps fresher tyres on the hards, it was enough for him to get within DRS range, and the straight line speed of the Mercedes is absolutely immense. All he had to do was get DRS, be 9/10 away, and he was charging up to the back of Verstappen and forcing Max to defend into turn 1. And that, of course, made him very vulnerable down towards turn 4. We've not seen a lot of overtakes at turn 4. Overall, Hamilton, I think, did 1 yesterday on Charles Leclerc. The rest of them were all into turn 1. But it was just forcing Verstappen to defend turn 1 that put him offline, and through he came. And you have to say, it probably was having some fresher tyres. I still can't quite understand Bottas' strategy, but he's running around 4 seconds ahead of Perez and looks like he could take a podium, but of course that came from pitting under the virtual safety car on the first stop.
5 to go in the Brazilian Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live. Jolyon Palmer alongside myself, Jack Nicholls and Jenny Gow. Hamilton is leading, 5.4 seconds ahead of Verstappen in second. Bottas is third, Perez is fourth. The 2 Ferraris of Leclerc and Sainz are 5th and 6th. Gasly is 7th, Alonso 8th, Ocon 9th, Norris 10th. Vettel, Raikkonen, Russell, Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, Latifi, Mazepin and Schumacher are the 18 runners. Lance Stroll is out of the Grand Prix, as is Daniel Ricciardo, Jenny.
Yes, he is. They had a power unit failure, so a loss of power all of a sudden, so they had to retire Daniel Ricciardo from the race. A shame for McLaren. Their battle with Ferrari now looks quite a bit different. Ferrari scoring 18 points, McLaren just set to score 1 point, so that gap growing again.
Just getting a replay of Hamilton having a bit of a moment down at the left-hander of turn 9, but nothing particularly dramatic there, as he leads with 6 seconds now advantage over Verstappen. He was a second quicker on that last lap, Hamilton, with 4 laps to go now. Bottas isn't closing in on Verstappen here.
Perez has a free pit stop for a fastest lap point.
Yeah.
And Red Bull will surely use that to make sure that Hamilton, who currently holds the fastest lap, doesn't pick up 26 points. So Perez has still got a job to do to take the fastest lap away from Hamilton. And if he does, that'll be 14 points the difference with 3 races to go. Set up for a thrilling finale still in this season. You got to wonder if the Mercedes power unit is making a huge difference for Lewis Hamilton this weekend, given his extraordinary pace. But I can't help but think, just a new power unit has never been more than about a 10th of a second, really, over a used one. Unless they had to really turn down the power unit in recent races, it can't be. It may be a little bit of that is a power unit, but quite frankly, if the new power unit for Mercedes is worth this much, keep taking new ones. Keep taking new ones, because he started from the back and he's still winning the race. If it's this much of a gain, then, well, yeah. But I presume that this one will last to the end of the season, is the theory, and presume it'll be at this speed. Jenny?
It's worth bearing in mind, they now have 2 power units. They only had 1 before, and they were trying to string it out and make it last to the end of the season. This was a tactical option to take a new power unit here. It means they've got 2 in the bag, and it means they can push them that little bit harder. They can deploy their energy a little bit better. So not just is it like a new power unit so they can get more out of it, but I think they can just run it higher as well.
At 68 of 71, it's certainly helped Hamilton's cause this weekend. He's now 7 seconds clear of Verstappen as he comes through the final couple of corners. Down through the left-hander, Mergulho, and then out onto the start-finish straight again. The Brazilian crowd have really been treated to a couple of great races. Hamilton charging through the field yesterday, wheel-to-wheel battles for the win today, and with 3 laps to go, the Sao Paulo circuit has seen quite a big swing in the championship coming up. Hamilton closing the gap down to the lead of Verstappen in a championship that has ebbed and flowed over the year.
Where's Valtteri?
Valtteri, P3.
Good job.
Good job, says Hamilton, asking where Valtteri Bottas is. 2.5 laps to go now for Hamilton.
Perez still just 3 seconds away from Bottas, but surely will come into the pits at the end of this lap and get himself ready for a fastest lap attempt. Bottas doesn't have the chance to do that. No one else ahead does, because they've got cars just behind, but Perez has a 32-second gap back to Charles Leclerc, so has a free stop, and he's not about to pass Valtteri Bottas for 3rd anyway. But again, it's going to be the big 2, isn't it? Finishing 1st and 2nd, Hamilton and Verstappen. And from pole position, I guess, Bottas not able to beat Max Verstappen in the race. So from that point of view, Verstappen's done well. But, we said it, when Hamilton roared through at the start with that amount of pace, and having seen what he did yesterday, how could Verstappen hold him back? He's just been on another level this weekend.
Penultimate lap of the race now for Hamilton, coming down to the Terceiro do Lago, the lake descent that takes him down towards one of the 2 lakes in between which this Sao Paulo circuit is situated, into Lagos, meaning in between the lakes. Makes sense really when you think about it. As into the pits now comes Sergio Perez to take a soft set of tyres, and he now will go to set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. So if he sets the fastest lap of the race, then it'll be 14 points, the gap between Verstappen in the lead of the championship and Hamilton 2nd in the championship. As they come around now to start the final lap, Lewis Hamilton. Down through the left-hander at Mergulho up towards Junsao, and he will just have 1 more lap, so about 1 minute and 20 seconds away from Hamilton winning the Brazilian Grand Prix. He's not won that many races this year, Lewis Hamilton. He won the Russian Grand Prix, the British Grand Prix. Those are his only 2 wins in the last 15. But he's going to be adding a third now, surely, as he starts his final lap around Interlagos. And Mercedes have got the win, sort of despite everything. Despite a 5-place grid drop for an engine penalty, despite being disqualified from qualifying, despite Max Verstappen arguably not getting a penalty he should have. There was one more when I started that list and I can't remember what it was.
Hamilton's lost 24 places on the grid over 2 races this time, and he's going to win the race by about 10 seconds. If he hadn't have had it, this would have been not such an interesting Grand Prix if Hamilton started pole, but from the back it's been absolutely thrilling. Go on.
Despite the curious strategy call that had him out behind.
It doesn't look so curious now though, does it?
No, I know, but it finished off my list of 5 quite nicely. Enough of that. Hamilton's coming down now through Maguglio. He's going to finish 10 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen. He took the lead of the Grand Prix with 10 laps to go. He's been going about a second a lap quicker than Verstappen, and he comes out now through the final corners, and the checker flag is going to fall. Lewis Hamilton, at the scene of clinching his first World Championship in 2008, takes a huge step towards winning his 8th by winning in Brazil. He's now just 14 points behind Max Verstappen with 3 Grand Prix to go. He had to work hard for it, back of the grid for the race yesterday. Started the race today in 10th, but he's come through and fought wheel to wheel with Verstappen and come out on top. Hamilton wins in Brazil. The championship fight goes on. Bottas 3rd, Perez 4th, Leclerc 5th, Sainz, Gasly, Ocon and Alonso and Norris the top 10. Vettel 11th, Raikkonen 12th, Russell, Giovinazzi, Tsunoda the top 15, Latifi, Mazepin, Schumacher, the 18 drivers. Perez gets the fastest lap by 9/10 of a second in the end, so fairly straightforward. It is now a 14-point gap between Verstappen at the top and Hamilton in second, with 3 races to go. 78 points on offer still, and just 14 between them. And this is a big one for Hamilton. He is absolutely, he's undone his seatbelts, he's leaning forward and he's punching the air.
Yeah, boy! That's how you do it, man. That is how you do it.
Yes! Come on, guys! Thank you so much. Such great work. Let's keep going. Let's keep pushing. Great points, team.
Yeah, mate, we are on it.
Lewis, this is how you overcome a 20-place disqualification.
It's actually 25, but you're right.
It was 25, you're right.
And Hamilton now pulling over, and in the same manner as his great hero Ayrton Senna, picks up a Brazilian flag and holds it above the car as he drives his way around back to the pit lane. The halo makes the whole holding the flag thing a little bit more difficult, doesn't it? But Hamilton holding the Brazilian flag aloft as he cruises around on his slowing in lap. One of the tracks where he's most popular, I would suggest, Lewis Hamilton. He used to run with basically an Ayrton Senna inspired helmet back when he started in Formula 1 and throughout his junior career. Now has the nice purple number, but some flashes of yellow and green on it this weekend. This could be the biggest win of his season.
Could be the biggest win of the season, full stop. The way that Mercedes have turned this around from thinking that this was all over to it being more on than ever.
Nicely done, Max. Nicely done. P2, mate. Solid point.
Yeah, I tried everything I could, but we were just not quick enough. But still good points.
No, great effort, Max. You gave it everything, and damage limitation. So Checo's just nicked the fastest lap back off Lewis as well.
Yeah, good job.
So this is so interesting now with Red Bull, because suddenly they're the ones with damage limitation, good amount of points. This weekend was meant to be tight. Maybe Red Bull have the advantage because Verstappen won in 2019. But Hamilton and Mercedes have come from 25 places back to take the win. Hamilton stands on top of the car, raises his fists and pumps them at the Brazilian crowd. Momentum is fully with Mercedes now, surely.
This is so ominous this weekend. And let's not forget, Mercedes have been the form team since the summer. They had a blip in Mexico. They're always weak in Mexico. They were beaten in Zandvoort, but it was tight, and that was always going to favour Red Bull as well. Austin, likewise. But in between, they've had the pace. They've had the the jump on Red Bull in Russia, in Turkey, in Monza, Hungary as well. They were much quicker than Red Bull, and now after the anomaly that is Mexico, really, they're back on form. But this is the most dominant display we have seen by a long shot this season. It's really, really ominous, and Red Bull are going to need to find something at the next race, because Hamilton, starting from the back or even from 10th, has ended up winning this comfortably. If he started where he qualified, he's a long way out of touch for Max Verstappen.
He climbs up onto the pit wall and waves the Brazilian flag at the fans in the grandstand opposite. Max Verstappen already back and putting on his cap. Hamilton yet to take off his helmet. He's already dived into his engineers and mechanics that have come down to applaud him. And Hamilton now on his way to get weighed. Sergio Perez, as Jolien said, set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, or as Christian Horner said, actually, to take that point away from Hamilton. Bottas finishing third was a little fortuitous because of that virtual safety car, where he managed to pit just in time. But Lewis Hamilton wins the Brazilian Grand Prix from 10th on the grid. Max Verstappen from second finishes second. Bottas from pole finishes third. And we are now going to hear from the top three, starting with Max Verstappen. They're speaking to Brazilian racer Felipe Massa.
Hi Max, really congratulations for the race. On my view, had a fantastic race, fighting until the end. Maybe it was missing a little bit in terms of the pace, so what to tell for all of us here?
Yeah, I mean, we tried everything we could today, of course. I think it was a good battle, but of course at the end we just missed a little bit of pace, but we gave it all today, and it was a lot of fun.
Congratulations, I think it was really nice race to watch, and especially this battle. So what do you think for the next race? Ready to fight until the end like you show here?
Yeah, I mean, we still have a good points lead, you know, so today was a bit of damage limitation on a weekend where it was a bit difficult for us, but you know, I'm confident that the coming races, you know, will bounce back.
Congratulations.
Well, the Brazilian fans are giving it a bit of support, aren't they? I think they're chanting Senna, the famous Ole Ole Senna song, as they now break ranks and go onto the track. Here's Bottas.
Hi Valtteri. Start yesterday was fantastic. Maybe a little bit different today, especially in the first corner, by being a little bit, you know, on the outside. And also, you know, when I saw you braking for corner 4, maybe the grip was not 100% there from the track, I would say. So can you explain your race for us today?
Yeah, the start was quite tricky. I'm disappointed with the start, but and the first lap, but I tried. But afterwards, yeah, the pace was actually quite okay. I thought we could have done one stop quite easily, but we decided to stop. But yeah, I'm glad we could get more points than Red Bull, and Lewis had an amazing drive today. I think he was on his own league today.
And do you think maybe the virtual safety car was a little help also to pass Checo as well?
Yeah, the VSC was in a good place for me for once, so I was happy with that. And but yeah, I mean, still solid points.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And now Lewis Hamilton, the winner of the Brazilian Grand Prix, speaking to Felipe Massa.
It's very difficult, you know, to do the question for you. You are not. Can you hear? You are not the driver of the day. You are the driver of the weekend. So yesterday, what you did, it was just incredible. And I don't know, but I saw your face after the race yesterday, and today, what you give, you know, fighting and overtaking, and also for the people. Really, for me, you were the driver of the weekend. And did you feel anything different with the Brazilian people supporting you 100% from yesterday? So can you please tell us what you think?
I appreciate that, dude. And firstly, now I know, I think I feel what it was like for you here with all the support in 2007 with your amazing country. I'm so grateful for the incredible support I've had this weekend. I've not had it since like Silverstone was when I had my own a good group of support. But since then, it's been really difficult, you know. So to hear these throughout the weekend has been really humbling, and yeah, I've been saying like obrigado Brazil, I'm so grateful. As I said, what a race. The team did an amazing job. Valtteri did a great job today to get as many points as possible. So, yeah, I mean, I was pushing. You know how it is. Just pushing as hard as I could. But from last on the grid and then another 5-place penalty was, I think, the hardest weekend I've had. But my dad said, he reminded me of 2004 when I was in Formula 3 in Bahrain, and I started last, and I finished 10th, and then I finished first. So yeah, this one's for my dad.
Well, also, can you just tell about the overtaking? And also, what do you think for the next race? You think this was an extra help for you to fight for the championship and nothing to lose?
I mean, coming into this weekend, I never ever thought that we would be able to close the gap like we have today. And then these things that just kept going against us. But I think it really shows and for everyone, just never give up, whatever you're facing. You just got to keep pushing, keep tumbling away, keep fighting, and never stop fighting. And that's really how I've kind of approached this weekend. Inspiration from all around, but it feels like the first, because I don't feel like I had a win for a long time. So
really, from my side, congratulations. Really, amazing job.
So Lewis Hamilton is the winner of the Brazilian Grand Prix. It finished Hamilton from Verstappen in second place, then Bottas, Perez and Leclerc, the top 5. What does that do for the standings? Well, you've already heard Verstappen still leads the standings, but just 14 points separates him from Hamilton. Coming into the race today, it was 21 points. And as for the Constructors' Championship, well, Mercedes do lead the way. It's an 11-point lead now. Ferrari, a 31.5-point lead over McLaren in their battle for third place, and Alpine and AlphaTauri sharing 112 points each in their battle for fifth. What a race it was. Breathless, exciting. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I can't see how you didn't. Jolyon, Hamilton saying, the hardest weekend I've had. What a performance. What a time to pull it out of the hat.
Yeah, how long's he been driving in Formula 1? This is his, 15th year? 14th year? Started in 07. I think this is one of his best weekend performances ever. It all comes from having tremendous pace, but he was ruthless the whole time. He's taken so much adversity this weekend with Stewart's decisions. He knew he was going to take the 5-place grid drop, but he didn't think he'd be starting a 24-lap sprint from the back of the grid and then having a grid drop on anything he made up. He made up 15 places. It counted for 10, so he still had to start 10th today. And he's won the race, fending off a really questionable decision from the stewards that, with Verstappen launching it on his inside in Hamilton's first attack. He didn't get the steward's decision there, and he still came back through to win. He's taken a lot of adversity, and it's been an exceptional weekend for him, and it really shifts, I think, the balance of the championship. 14 points still to Verstappen, but this momentum is huge.
That's the key point. That is the sort of result that is going to fire up a team, fire up a driver, fire up everybody involved at Mercedes. And Red Bull will obviously do their best to try and get back into it, no doubt. And they've got a really good opportunity. They've got a fast car. But the momentum after that win for Mercedes is surely going to be remarkable going into the final 3 races. And just when we thought the title fight wasn't on anymore.
It's definitely on. What a crucial weekend. Can't wait to go to Qatar next weekend. Let's see what happens there. A brand new track for Formula 1. Then to Saudi Arabia, another new street track. And we finished the year in Abu Dhabi, and it looks like it is going to go down to the wire when we were all but ready to write off Hamilton's chances.
One hand on the trophy.
Write him off at your peril.
One hand on the trophy, you said on Thursday night, didn't you?
I don't think so. I asked the question. Steve, save us from this languishing in our own predictions and smugness.
Don't try and put Jenny away 5 seconds before she hands over, Jack. Come on.
It's all right. Just before we started this race, I called it as Hamilton winning it, and he said Verstappen would win. So, tit for tat.
Yeah.
Fine. Thank you very much, guys. That was absolutely fantastic. What a brilliant listen. Jenny Gow, Jack Nicholls, Jolyon Palmer bringing you a stunning Brazilian Grand Prix. And there'll be much more from the guys later as well with the Checkered Flag podcast. We've got about 12 minutes left.